Have an update on the billions of dollars being taken.
Scammers, as we know, are becoming more and more sophisticated.
Lying in bed, wondering how I could tell my wife that we'd lost everything.
Our mission is to protect consumers worldwide from scams. Cybercrime is going through the roof, and we need to take action fast.
We cannot keep on working in silos, and we've heard it here a couple of times already today. I think GASA is bringing this cross-sector perspective that is so much lacking in most of the events.
I'm hoping to start finding ways to help take the information I have and really help people.
These type of events are finally going to hear we took action instead of we need to take action and make the world a little bit better.
Hello, welcome to SCA Tizen's Alert, Scams You Can't Afford to Ignore. I'm Brian Hanley, APAC Director with the Global Anti-Scam Alliance. As you heard in the video from Yuri, our founding director, our mission is to protect consumers worldwide from online scams. In doing so, we conduct research across more than 40 markets to ground our solutions in evidence. The State of Scams report is based on survey data from across Southeast Asia. It shows scams are now a daily threat, not isolated cases. While the numbers are large, the human impact is larger. People lose money, they lose confidence and trust in digital systems meant to make their lives easier. Lamentably, recovery rates are low across the region, which exposes a gap between the scale of the problem and the support victims receive. Today's speakers will walk through the data and open the discussion on how government, industry, and partners can work together to protect consumers. Before we jump in, we also want to thank BioCatch and Scam Advisor for supporting this research and helping turn findings into action. So, without further ado, we'll run through some of the key findings of the report. Briefly, these are our all-star lineup of speakers. Introduce them later as we go, but really thrilled to have the support from a broad section of industry leaders and as well as a surprise guest who has insider knowledge on the scam industry. The State of Scams in Southeast Asia report. We were able to achieve decent scale. 6,000 respondents across 6 months gives us a clear regional pattern, not just anecdotes. Of course, we wish the number is larger, but there are limitations in the resources to conduct such widespread research. Online panels tend to slightly underrepresent lower income and offline populations, so the true exposure may be even higher. Despite this, the consistency of the market shows the threat is broad and structural. The research covered the following key topics: scam prevalence, our experience of being scammed, scam reporting, and scam impact. At scam prevalence by country, the highest prevalence in Vietnam and Malaysia suggests an environment where digital commerce grows faster than consumer protection. With 6 in 10 adults saying they've been scammed, prevention becomes a public health issue, not a niche crime topic. The gap between countries hints at different informed capacities and different levels of platform penetration. The most common scam types are investment, unexpected money, and impersonation scams, which thrive because they combine urgency and manufactured authority. These scams scale with messaging apps, which magnifies their reach across the region. It shows scammers shifting towards emotionally intelligent approaches, not just technical exploits. In terms of money lost to scams, losing money is far less common than being targeted, but when it happens, the damage is significant. Malaysia and Philippines stand out, which reflect looser payment oversight or faster adoption of instant payment tools. People tend to underreport losses, so the real figures are likely higher. Singapore's high per victim losses reflect higher disposable income and more exposure to investment style scams. US $23.6 billion estimates signals a regional economic drag, not just individual economic hardship. Households, even a small loss can disrupt savings or debt cycles. Most victims do report, but only 1 in 5 recover anything. The process is often slow and fragmented. Singapore's stronger recovery rate shows what coordinated bank, platform, government systems can achieve. Low recovery fuels distrust and keeps victims silent in future cases. One thing is certain, the emotional toll is widespread. Even when the financial loss is small, the sense of violation is high. The Philippine stress levels may reflect more aggressive scam types or lower confidence in institutional support. Stress compounds the social stigma that keeps victims from seeking help. Exposure numbers show that encounters are now a routine part of our online lives. Some in Malaysia continue to lead, reinforcing the earlier prevalence pattern. This creates background noise that normalizes scams and reduces our vigilance. Platforms used by scammers are where most of us spend our time. WhatsApp, Telegram dominate simply because they combine scale, anonymity, and low barriers to entry. Cross-platform scam operations mean blocking one channel rarely disrupts the whole network. Scammers follow the user behavior, not platform rules. With every migration, they act instantly. Most report because they think nothing's going to happen, especially when no money was lost. When I get scammed, I rarely report unless there was a loss in money. Thankfully, I've been scammed in quite a while. There are practical barriers like unclear reporting pathways that reinforce that perception, and that could be quick wins for GASA and uncertainty about whether something counts as a scam, early warning from reaching platforms and authorities. In terms of self-prevention, this is a ray of hope and light in this bleak report. Almost everyone checks something, but many of the steps most used, adjusting profile photos or grammar, these are now weak indicators, especially where AI has gotten much more sophisticated in making sure that those spelling errors don't exist. Stronger methods require more digital literacy, more friction, which many users tend to avoid. That shows why education alone won't solve the problem. People look to government and public bodies to protect them. This signals a trust deficit in commercial actors. Consumers still see a role for themselves, but not the primary one. The mixed expectations across sectors show why coordination is difficult. In terms of performance versus expectations, police score better than expected, likely because many cases involve impersonation or stolen identities, not just financial theft. Across the region, government performance falls short of expectations, reflecting slow policy updates, fragmented mandates. I will note, however, that most governments across Southeast now have anti-scam centers and are working closely in a more coordinated effort to combat these crimes. So we are making progress. This data is still a little bit dated. Finally, the mismatch highlights the need for shared accountability rather than assigning blame to one sector. And that, I think, is the reason why we bring together so many different stakeholders at GASA, from government and regulators, law enforcement, industry leaders such as banks, fintech, telcos, e-commerce, and social media, as well as civil society and media and others, all to break down the silos across Southeast Asia so that we can keep up with the threat. We're going up against highly sophisticated international criminal cartels who transcend boundaries and are always one step ahead of us. So we're hoping to break down some of that today, and going to introduce you to some of our speakers to dive a little more deeply into the findings from the SCA report. We're going to ask Bin from Meta to kick us off. Head of Public Policy in Thailand for Facebook, leading the development and implementation of policies in Thailand. And previously worked at the Royal Thai Police, where he spearheaded policies initiatives for Thailand. He holds a master's degree in criminal justice from Boston U and a doctoral degree in criminal justice from Sam Houston State University, US. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll hand the floor over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brian. Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Lee Chai Anand, Head of Public Policy, Thailand at Facebook, Thailand. So today I will present Meta Platform Inc. effort to counter fraud and scam. During the COVID-19 pandemic, scam compound run by the organized crime emerged in the Asian Pacific region as one of the major sources of forced criminality and other scam activity. And while they are mostly based in Asia, scam centers target people across the globe. These criminal scam hubs lure often unsuspecting job seekers with too good to be true job posting on local job board, forum, and recruitment platform to then force them to work as online scammer, often under the threat of physical abuse. Often the operation run at scale with significant resourcing behind them, targeting victims through a range of channels. Increasingly, society is becoming aware of how deeply adversarial the problem of fraud is and how it is growing globally across society. So how does Meta counter fraud and scam? Meta is committed to fighting and preventing scam, ensuring its platform are not abused for criminal activity. However, part of the challenge is that fraud is a complex issue. This means there is no silver bullet, and we need to deploy a number of mitigation. When tackling fraud and scam, we have an offense strategy, disrupting the threat actor as they emerge, and defense strategy, protecting the people using our platform by increasing resiliency and making sure that the threat actor cannot come back. These four pillars demonstrate category of mitigation strategy we deploy at Meta. The four pillars are: first, build platform defense, so we protect our platform from being abused. Second, disrupt bad actor, adding friction and cost to foster operation, cross society efforts, because we know that we cannot solve the fraud alone. Empowering user to give user tools, controls, and education to help protect against fraud on and off our platform. For build platform defense, at Meta, we look at scam through a three-part framework: actor, behavior, and content, or called ABC, in which addressing content issue is only one part of our broader strategy. We craft policy and enforcement framework for each of these problem areas. First, actor-based enforcement involves the removal of account of organization because of the totality of their activity on the platform. Second, behavior-based enforcement, we predicated on specific violating or inauthentic behavior. And third, content-based enforcement is predicated on specific violation of our communities and advertising standard and other content policies. We focus our attention on behavior rather than content. As why the content of this scam changes frequently, the modus operandi of the bad actor typically remain the same. For actor, compromise account or gaining unauthorized access to another user account, impersonation, deceptive identity, or recidivism, or using multiple accounts or devices. For behavior, misleading romantic outreach or pretending to take romantic interest in the target. and misreading commercial outreach or pretending to have a commercial opportunity for the target. For the content, celeb bet, misreading financial incentive, and misreading product claim. Focusing on fraud and scam, we remove network. Across services, we have policy that outline what people can and cannot do on our platform, advertising product and commercial services. For example, across Facebook and Instagram, we have a specific fraud and deception policy to protect people and businesses. Under our fraud and deception policy, we remove content that purposefully deceive, willfully misrepresent, or otherwise defraud or exploit others for money or property. This includes content that seek to coordinate or promote this activity using our services. For human exploitation policy, we define human trafficking as the business of depriving someone of liberty for profit. It is the exploitation of humans in order to force them to engage in commercial sex, labor, or other activities against their will. So content geared toward the recruitment of potential victims through force, fraud, coercion, enticement, deception, blackmail, or other non-consensual acts. For empower user, our key effort also focus on prevention and stopping the harm before it happens. We develop various versions of tools and notices that warn the user as well as provide information about the account that they are interacting with. For the past 6 months, we have launched 10 new features across Meta app. We continue to invest in and evolve our safety features. Search intervention can help decrease repeat searches for abusive material and defer offending behavior. We often co-design such intervention with external safety experts and connect users to the external resources. Interstitial message can deter abuse, support victims, and educate bystander and offender. We apply this intervention when we have a defined audience that we want to enroll in an experience. Partnering with the experts, we use tools such as custom message to notify users that they have been targeted by a malicious network and deliver support such as linking to health center resource or external sites. And we know that despite the scale of our investment in tracking this problem, there is no way we or anyone else can do it alone. This limited visibility we have mean collaboration and partnership is absolutely essential in combating fraud. By its very nature, fraud is adversarial and hard to spot, and the perpetrators of fraud are continually searching for ways to get around the rules and safeguards we put in place to protect our users. And we know that we are unlikely to make any real difference tackling this issue alone because fraudsters are constantly changing their behavior and adapting, so we have to work with others to maximize our impact. To that end, we have been looking for opportunity to partner with a number of different organizations to work on initiatives we think will help drive down fraud. In Thailand, Meta work with government partners has led to improved detection and removal of scam accounts and content across platforms. Since 2022, in Thailand, Meta has partnered with the Electronic Transaction Development Agency or ETDA under the Ministry of Digital Economy and Society to do roadshow initiative to promote digital education and safety awareness across Thailand. We went to 51 provinces across Thailand. This partnership has empowered communities with practical skills and tools for safer, more positive online experiences. For disrupt scammer, our technologies proactively detect and act on the vast majority of violating content before anyone reports it. Our policy team, engineers, data scientists, and review team work together to update and improve technologies over time. Meanwhile, our technologies help our human review team prioritize content to ensure that we are working effectively and efficiently. To dig a little deeper in that fan-out work, we have been zooming out from a content account-based approach traditionally used by the industry to target network. Connection to the social graph is an advantage to us because we can leverage signal there and apply them to our prevention mechanism. Our investigation has shown that the bad actors almost always reveal their intention with obvious public signal. Network disruption take advantage of the social graph connection. We recognize that the threat actors are going to continue to evolve in response to our defenses. That's why we continuously build the knowledge gained from the expert investigation back into our automated system. By incorporating lessons learned about common signal of law enforcement back into our automated detection system, we can free up time for investigators to focus on the most sophisticated adversarial risks. We also build product intervention that make it harder for bad actors to try to exploit our platform. For example, our page transparency tool show where admin of pages are located so that actors cannot pretend to manage from one country when they are actually managed from another. We also show the history of changes to a page so that user can tell when a page used innocuous topic to build an audience and then deceptively switch to a scammy page. In the first half of 2025, we have enforced over 12 million scam center link accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And we are going after the criminal organization behind false criminality and other schemes, which target people globally to messaging, dating, social media, crypto, and other apps. And we partner with the law enforcement and our peers in the private sector to share insights and work together to disrupt this malicious scam operation. Thank you so much. I will pass it to Robert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. It looks like high levels of collaboration with law enforcement. Really appreciate you pointing out that this is beyond just a financial loss issue. This is a human rights issue, and really value Thailand's leadership in a pretty dangerous neighborhood where we have scam compounds, very large ones in Myanmar, Cambodia, and also in Laos. So thanks again for your leadership there. I would like to hand it over to our next speaker, Robert Harris. He's the head of product marketing at Feedzai. He's a passionate proponent for fighting fraud and money laundering, particularly in financial services. He's an accomplished leader in both small and large organizations in identifying opportunities, securing funding, and creatively delivering value in line with project goals. Take it away, Robert. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brian. Yes, so what I'm going to do today, if we go to the next slide, please, Hyacinth. I'm going to focus on one specific aspect of the report, which is the payment methods scammers use, and specifically how, in Southeast Asia, we see a predominance of crypto and e-wallets for scam payments. Before we do that, though, I just want to set the scene because obviously we've seen some statistics from Southeast Asia. Feedzai worked with GASA for the global report, and that just helps set the context because how does Southeast Asia compare with some of the other regions? Feedzai, by the way, operates globally. We have one very simple mission, one very important mission, and it's to provide the best technology for banks and payment providers to actually prevent fraud and financial crime. What we like to say is the sharp end of the scam life cycle, right at the end where things come to a head. We know that in most countries, scams are now the most common form of crime, but using the right AI technology for banks, we can now detect around 80% of scam attempts. So there is a lot that can be done. By the way, I should just apologize if I get any interruptions. It's quiet now, but I'm actually sitting at the airport on the way back from the GASA summit in the US. We had 2 days of very good discussions. We were to show the sort of support that we're getting now, not just in Southeast Asia, but globally. GASA were actually invited to speak at the Hill in Washington to government officials. So it just shows you the impact. There will be feedback of the summit. I mean, I think the two main takeaways over the last 2 days has been the fact that at all areas of the life cycle, be it at social media, be it at government, consumer support, or at our stage, which is the banks, the focus is very much now turning towards the criminals themselves. So in case of the banks, that's looking at the mule accounts, the accounts the criminals use to actually perpetrate these crimes. So that's across the life cycle. I think that's a bit of a change. We still can obviously continue to support the consumer, but there's definitely a global move there to focus more on the scam compounds and the criminals themselves. So if we go to the next slide, I'll just skip through the first of this because Brian's obviously covered some of this. But again, large. Oh, sorry. Can you go back? Yeah, go back up. Oh, that's it. Yeah, just press very quickly. So just put this in context. Globally, 46,000 respondents. Asia very well represented, and Southeast Asia as well. And this is an important report. This is the only report that can compare globally and contrast based on consumer feedback. So the people, the victims that are really suffering. There is no other global report like it. There are lots of great national reports, but this allows us to give that comparison and that contrast. If we go to the next slide, please, Synth. Yeah, and so what I wanted to say really here was that, you know, on some of these, I won't go into the numbers, but you can see in some dimensions that we see a lot of consistency, not just within Southeast Asia, but with all other regions. You know, we're talking about, you know, how many people have had a scam experience, ranging from like 50, 60% up to 70 or 80. So, you know, it's not a vast difference. There is quite a bit of consistency, and I think we see that. Where there are some differences, though, is the types of scams. But in other aspects, if we go to the next slide, please, Hyacinth, yeah. In other aspects, like with the average value of a scam, we can see very significant differences between different countries. And I mean, we picked out Singapore in the Southeast Asia, but you can see that, you know, the average value of a scam can compare very differently between some countries and others, you know, especially in Southeast Asia. But it's not just the average value, it's looking at the type of scams. So in some countries like Austria, Singapore, we see a lot more of the higher value scams, which are things like investment or romance. In other geographies, and increasingly so across the board, we're seeing higher volume of low value scams. So the purchase scams, people being, you know, duped into buying concert tickets. I think there was a big peak in Singapore recently when, you know, a pop star visited, and there was a lot of people applying for tickets. So, you know, looking into the numbers, and I do encourage you to look at the global report as well as the Southeast Asia report, you know, we can put this into context and see where some of these patterns are happening. Yeah, next slide, please, Iris. So as I say, I wanted to specifically focus on the payment methods used that scammers deploy to get to their victims. I think just looking at this graph, so this is the global before we come on to the Southeast Asian numbers. But if we look at it globally by region, again, we can see quite a bit of consistency. I think the main thing here to notice is the vast variety of channels that scammers use to target their victims. So, you know, from our perspective, helping the banks, if you shut one channel down or put defenses on one channel, the scammers very, very quickly realize that and switch to another. So, you know, looking at just one channel is never going to give you the full picture. So we encourage banks, payment providers to look across all of their channels. You know, scammers are really smart. We see in some countries that they find out which bank the victim is using, and depending on that bank's controls, they will use a different modus operandi to affect, you know, their crime. So where they realize that some banks haven't got so much effective controls in the branch, they will take a risk and they will send the victim to the branch to withdraw the funds there or make the payment from the branch. For other banks that have good controls across both branch and channels, then they won't do that. So, you know, there's a big difference. And if you look at, you know, the numbers for, you know, which payment methods are used, you can see account to account, but cards are also used, and increasingly so. But let's move on and let's focus on Southeast Asia then. The next slide, please, Hyacinth. So you could see, we saw on the previous slide, you know, the overall number for the region, for Asia, but actually that hides a lot of differences, right? When you drill down into each individual country, then you start to see some quite broad discrepancies. So if we look at, for example, here, bank account transfers, which surprisingly, I think in Southeast Asia is used 48% of the time for scammers to exit their funds. Now, this is, you know, based on previous data. So we're expecting that trend maybe to change, as we go forward. But that 48% compares with a global figure of 29% from the previous slide. So actually, bank account transfers are used more by scammers. I mean, the reason for that, I guess, if you saw, was that, in comparison, in other regions, cards tend to get used more. And actually, now for the first time, if you add together both credit card and debit card, you're seeing 35% of scams being facilitated over those channels. So for the first time, cards are overtaking account-to-account payments on a global basis. Not got there yet. In Southeast Asia, you can see it's 24% being affected through cards. So, comparatively low. And now turning to the two channels that we're going to focus on, because obviously they have bigger impact in Southeast Asia, is crypto. Okay, so crypto, globally 11% of scam payments, very, very similar to the number in Southeast Asia. But again, in Southeast Asia, you can see across different countries, there are very different results on the use of crypto. But you have to put that 11 or 12% into the context that actually how widely used is crypto generally across the population. And we're looking at less than 1% of payments today actually being made over crypto. So that implies that if 11% of scamming payments is going over it, it's proportionally much higher than the other payment channels. So crypto is definitely a favored method. Comes out in the figures, comes out from the consumer feedback that crypto is used. Finally, the digital wallets. This is where I think we're seeing the biggest contrast between Southeast Asia and globally. So Southeast Asia, 36% usage of digital wallets. Globally, only 17%. These numbers are both changing, but digital wallets clearly used in Southeast Asia. And probably the two reasons for that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, is the higher proportion in the region generally for unbanked, underbanked citizens. And also, just the general digital awareness and the rapid move to mobile technology in the region, which is obviously happening globally, but predominantly more in Southeast Asia. So if we go to the next slide, Hyacinth, let's just talk about that. So why do we see that? Why do we see the higher e-wallet and crypto adoption in Southeast Asia? Well, there's a number of reasons for it, I think. We talked about, the high number of unbanked, but there's other reasons as well. So, you can bypass some of the barriers maybe that banks will put in place in terms of the distance, the requirement to be near to put those applications in. I think you also have to take into account, as I say, the mobile first lifestyle that many people in the region have. So using, usage of smartphone to access digital wallets is a great and convenient way, and something probably that gets used more. You also have, I think, in Southeast Asia, we have a higher use of, say, the ecosystems, the big app ecosystems. So Grab, very familiar with coming from Singapore, but also, GCash and other systems as well that integrate very, very highly with other services such as rides and making foods. So making that digital wallet far more accessible and far more, front of wallet or front of phone almost, you might say. And then the third aspect, the other aspect, is about the ease of use for the merchant. So not just for the consumer, not just for the people making those payments, but for merchants as well. Using digital wallets is very convenient, linked to QR codes, having to avoid, or being able to avoid, point of sale systems, which add additional cost for some of the smaller merchants. So those are some of the reasons we're seeing for the higher adoption of these methods. And obviously we encourage our customers to make sure they use the same controls and same prevention methods on those. The other thing I would say is obviously cheaper remittances. I think people are very familiar with that. So using crypto or digital wallets for that makes the fees could be a bit lower. As we say, right, accessibility. So people, youth in Southeast Asia all know how to use their phones. Just got to sit on the transport systems anywhere, and you can see virtually everybody's on a phone nowadays. So that's some of the reasons why. That's some of the reasons why we need to be very extra vigilant on these channels. Why do we have to do that? So let's just finish Hyacinth on the next slide. And the reasons for that, if we could move on, right? Yeah, it's simply because digital finance, as well as being very easy, again, makes it very attractive, has certain vulnerabilities that we need to be really, really protective of in terms of the anonymity, right? So, funds may be more difficult for local law enforcement to trace. Brian talked about these fantastic scam centers, which I have to say are really strong in Southeast Asia and are being taken as a lesson in other geographies. So Southeast Asia definitely leading the way there. But there's also coupled with the sometimes lower ID controls around some of these digital apps, that although it makes it easier for people, also makes it easier for the criminals to set up mule accounts. So there's good and bad, but I think we can get the best of both worlds by making these payment channels available, but making sure they have the same and similar controls that other payment channels, more traditional payment channels have. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and as I say, the way that we're now, everybody who is concerned at GASA at preventing scams is focusing increasingly on the criminal networks, whether that's to bring down a scam center or to focus on the mule accounts. I think there's a big shift and a big move in the right direction. And being able now, as we move more and more to a borderless world led by crypto and digital wallets, we're going to see better controls and a better support for the consumer in protecting them on those channels. So as I say, great report, lots of interesting information. I've just highlighted one, but obviously there are many other aspects to take a look at. And again, put it into that global context and you can see how Southeast Asia compares. So I hope that's been helpful. I'm going to stop there, hand back to Hyacinth. Happy to answer questions.
Thanks so much, Robert. I think, I've been doing these updates country by country in rapid successive order in Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore. And I think this rise of investment scams and crypto is an alarming trend. And so thank you so much for kind of parsing it out for us. And I'm really happy that you made it to our global summit in DC, and wishing you safe travels back. But we're not going to let you off the hook just yet. We may have some questions for you at the end. And I'm going to turn it over now to our next speaker. Julian Gorman is a recognized leader in the mobile industry, driving innovation and collaboration across Asia Pacific as head of region at GSMA. With over 20 years of global experience spanning business, policy, regulation, and digital transformation, he works at the intersection of technology and policy to shape the future of digital economies. Julian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Brian, and thanks for that great introduction. And picking up on the comments from Ben, yourself, and just for around the channels, mobile obviously in Asia Pacific plays a big role in scams, or it's the platform that a lot of scams at some point touch. And so I'm going to provide a bit of an update on the mobile industry's fight against scams in the Asia Pacific region. And focus and giving an update on what's happening at a global level, and then what's happening in more the Asia Pacific level. So if we go to the next slide. So from a global point of view, GSMA has initiated a new program called United Against Scams. If we go to the next slide. And it's because we recognize that mobile ecosystem is really on the front line of fighting scams across the world. The rising tide of cyber scams is not just a commercial issue, but it's around an erosion of consumer trust, which is the bedrock of a digital nation. And that's why we see it so important to not just address the personal issue, but actually the vision of the region around digital economies is all built on trust, digital trust, and scams are undermining that. And in doing that, GSMA conducted also some consumer research around ASEAN, which correlated very strongly with the GASA report. And just picking out a few numbers there, nearly 1 in 10 consumers were scammed in the past year, and 84% of consumers believe that scams are increasing. Overall, share of consumers who have said they've been scammed climbed from 31% to 43% in the last 12 months, which is a bit alarming. And the primary channels for scams, which are identified in the GASA report as well, is around voice calls and messaging apps deliver a significant portion of the scams, or that's how they begin, and that's common channels which are involved. So highlighting the urgent need for network level interventions and the opportunity for mobile operators to play a part. So next slide. So the thing is, across the world, mobile network operators are acknowledging they have a critical role in combating scams. So SIM fraud, spoofed calls, SMS phishing or smishing. And these attacks often exploit our core mobile operator services. And so the mobile operators are beginning to invest significant resources in fraud detection systems, filtering and blocking mechanisms. Just to highlight there a few on the screen, Airtel's fight against fraud by introducing a spam filter has reduced financial losses to its customers by nearly 70% in the last 12 months. TPG Telecom and Apati.ai are using AI-powered bots to divert, more than 250,000 scam calls, preventing an estimated 8 million in losses. That's a bit like the O2 Granny, if people had knew about the O2 Granny. And KDDI is combating SMS phishing by displaying official logos and verification marks. And then even people like Globe Telecom are just removing links from SMS to avoid people being able to click on links. And so we're driving two key strategic approaches also globally around securing high-risk channels and sharing targeted network signals. And the main one there being the Open Gateway Initiative, which is enabling standardized APIs that allow banks and other partners to use verified signals from the operators, like checking when was the last time the SIM card was changed in the phone, to enhance user authentication and spot fraudulent activity in real time without compromising user privacy. Now, if we go to the next slide. So globally, we have a program called United Against Scam. And what you can see on the slide there is the 6 key pillars of the United Against Scam global program. And it's really around uniting a global voice of the mobile industry to champion the efforts and the innovation that's already underway, but then to also accelerate the impact and response through collective synergies. And so the United Against Scam program includes gathering details of individual mobile operators' efforts, but also to identify opportunities to collaborate and create impact. And you can see there, publishing use case libraries, innovation, a fraud manual for the baseline controls that mobile operators should be using to secure their network, make sure their network is resilient, very similar to what Meta, Ben outlined at the beginning there for the Meta program. So next slide. And so to drill that down into Asia Pacific, because I think we recognize, and the GASA report highlights that, and we also recognize that there's a lot of this world scam production and impact is happening in Asia Pacific. So go to the next slide. And while we know scam knows no borders, GSMA has convened the APAC Cross-Sector Anti-Scam Task Force, which recognizes the critical importance of cross-sector collaboration to attack this scam economy. And the purpose of ACAST is to foster cross-industry collaboration between mobile operators, digital platforms, to combat the growing threat of online scams across the Asia-Pacific region. And our goal is to enhance user protection and rebuild trust in the digital ecosystem through collaboration, sharing of information, and best practices. So next slide. Sorry, let me just lost my notes there. The scale of the collaboration is quite impressive. And you can see there's 37 organizations across 16 countries. And sorry, there, I'm just getting rid of things so I can see where I'm going. And across those members include mobile operators. You can see a lot of mobile operators there, but it also includes Meta, Google, and TikTok. And so it really is about trying to create a unified front. And it's also acknowledging that across the world, there's more than 700 mobile operators, while the number of platforms we're talking about, such as Meta and Google and TikTok, are not as many. And so GSMA plays a fundamental role in uniting the mobile operators so it's easier to engage and interwork between the mobile operators and the digital ecosystem. So next slide. And our ACAST is really focused on delivering tangible near-term actions And so just like at the global program, we're building a compendium of anti-scam initiatives, and we've had submissions already across 7 countries that continues to grow. We've established an APAC awareness resources stream, which includes analysing consumer awareness and attitudes towards scams through GSMA, ASEAN and India Consumer Scam Report, which we published just a month or so ago. And critically, we're developing collaboration tools through the Anti-Scam Foundry Proof of Concept in Indonesia, the Philippines and Malaysia, which I'm going to give you a bit more details of shortly. And of course, on top of that, it's around engagement and outreach, because I think a key function of GASA is around educating the ecosystem and the stakeholders and raising the awareness of the risk, but also what we can do to combat it. And GSMA considers it plays a critical role in making sure that the mobile industry is along on that journey. So next slide. So a key thing we're doing is we've got a Foundry project, which is looking at a collaborative effort, working with ecosystem partners, including Meta and MasterCard, using lean startup principles to create, use small incremental steps so we can learn about how we can share data. Because at the core of the project is if mobile networks are being used to conduct scams or scams are happening over the mobile network, is can we identify data that's happening within the network that correlates with a scam earlier in the scam and cycle? Like can we expose or share information which will help identify scams earlier in the cycle? And so with the project at the moment is on aiming to verify the correlation between mobile network data and the partner scam risk signals. And so we're focusing on 5 key privacy protected data sets from the mobile operators. If you go to the next slide. So the first one is around fraudulent account setup. So focusing on where maybe prepaid SIMs are being suspected to be fraudulently used to activate social media or other accounts that can be used to conduct fraud and scam. The second pot of data is analyzing traffic on the network to try and identify SIMs that are maybe have unnatural traffic profiles, and such as outbound voice or SMS with short or long call profiles that match suspected scam traffic. The third is around sharing information around expired prepaid SIMs that have another variable, that also have some other variable of suspicion, like they've never been reloaded and maybe have been used to continue some sort of scam account on social media. The fourth is, as more and more operators provide SMS or voice scam filters, spam scam filters, is exposing the numbers that are being caught in those filters as flagged as potential malicious numbers, and how can we share that information with the ecosystem. And then the fifth is, if consumers are reporting numbers are being involved in scam, is how do we expose those numbers? So between those 5 pots, by combining these insights, we're hoping we can better detect and shut down scam campaigns at the source, and significantly raising the cost and risk for criminal enterprise to conduct scams. Next slide. So overall, GSMA remains dedicated to the fight. We're active members in GASA, and we're working to restore trust in the global voice communications. And we're also doing other programs which are looking to bolster that. So we have a launch of our open verifiable calling project, so looking to make sure that consumers can get some confidence about the calls they receive, because I think probably everybody on the call now has some hesitancy or maybe doesn't even answer calls from people they don't know. So we're looking to try and restore the trust in that. And at the end of the day, GSMA and the mobile industry acknowledges that we are part of the ecosystem, that we have data that may be valuable in helping to combat scams. And it's about how we can contribute it to the ecosystem. Unfortunately, in many countries, mobile operators' licenses prohibit analysis of traffic or other consumer data for any purpose. And so a big thing that GSMA is working on is trying to make regulators aware of the opportunity that mobile operators could play in combating scams, and that plays a big part of the ACAST activity as well in Asia Pacific. But we know that we must continue to work together across sectors and across borders to make the digital ecosystem safe and trusted for all consumers in Asia Pacific. We have an event coming up just in a couple of days in Jakarta, where we'll be talking about scam and how the industry can work together. And of course, our major global event, the first week of March next year, will unite all our global anti-scam or combating scam initiatives, and bringing everybody together in Barcelona to share and grow. But that's just two of the next major events across the region, across Asia Pacific. ASEAN and India are our big focus points. But we acknowledge also that even in advanced markets like Japan and Korea and Australia, where I'm calling from now, is actually anti-scam is very mature. You saw the dollar value of scam losses in Australia. It's very high. And nowhere is safe, and that we must work together across the region. So we also invite other people, people from the ecosystem, to reach out to GSMA and participate in our discussions and activities. And of course, it's how we can work with the GASA and the global ecosystem to see if we can all move ahead quickly and have real impact against the scam economy. So thank you for that. That's my last slide. There's a URL there if you want to look up and find out more about GSMA's scam activities and get involved. You can through that URL there.
Thanks so much, Julian. Great presentation. Really value and appreciate GSMA's leadership in the space. So many great solutions coming in real time. We're blessed to have strong telco leadership in our chapters across APAC, particularly here in Indonesia and in Philippines, and some more surprises to come. If you have any more seats for next week's event in Jakarta, please do send an invite, and maybe we can get some GASA Indonesia chapter reps over to wave our flag. But thank you very much. And for the sake of time, I'm going to rush over into introducing our next speaker. Last but certainly not least, a really interesting perspective. Hugh Minh Nhu is a former hacker and a Vietnamese cybersecurity expert whose remarkable journey spans from convicted hacker to globally respected defender of cyberspace. He was born in Vietnam, arrested in 2013 in the US for orchestrating an identity theft ring affecting approximately 200 million Americans. After serving part of his sentence and cooperating with authorities, he was released in 2019. We're so happy to have you here today, Hugh, and would love to hear more from your perspective as someone who's seen the ins and outs of the scam game.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for your introduction. Thank you for having me here today. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So today I'm going to share about a little bit briefly about my personal story and how I transformed from a cyber criminal perspective into a new life as a white hat hacker, and until now I am a cybercrime investigator. Right. So my name is Hugh Minh Ngô, or in Vietnam they call Ngô Minh Hiếu. My nickname is Hugh PC. At current, I am CEO of non-profit anti-scam organization chống lừa đảo in Vietnam. Right. So my journey is I was born and raised in Vietnam, and I have some technical backgrounds. Self-taught programmer when I was like 7th grade, 8th grade. About like 14, 15 years old back in the day. And then I continue to develop my skill. I love about computer. That's why I learn everything from book and magazine, and also try to go to school as well. But back then, like internet is something very new in Vietnam. And internet also very slow too, and very expensive as well. In the early day of internet, and that's why I at first I try to explore the internet in the internet cafe, and I build some tool to be able to um, kind of stealing the internet dial accounts, and so I can use it. Use this account for free when I get home, and that's why I got into trouble um, when I was like 16 years old during my middle school, and my parents they got very mad at that. But luckily, I got away with that. But still continue have so much passion on computer, and I learned a lot about hacking and networking in computer skill as well. So during my high school, I went to Ho Chi Minh City, one of the biggest city in Vietnam, and I learned a lot about computer. And suddenly I got into the dark web. I know more about the other side of the internet. So I got into the dark web, and I learned a lot of stuff that I never know before. It's kind of blow my mind. Especially at that time I was very young. So I got my activities during that time when I was in high school. At first, everything just for fun, but then money when it comes to like financial motivation is one of the why it's got me into so many different problem and troubles. So I save up some money during my time of being a hacker and also a cyber criminal. I save up some money. I pay for the school fee when I for the school fee in New Zealand. So I pay off the money. I try to become a new, better person, a better version of myself. But I couldn't make it because I got tempted by the and all that's been around on the cybercrime forums, and so many is also very bad people, all the underground hackers and all the cyber criminal. They kind of give me some kind of bad advice that I should continue to do hacking and stealing information, stealing credit card, bank account, stuff like that. So everything from the beginning is just like for fun to money, real money, and then getting bigger and bigger money. So I got into one of my kind of biggest mistake, and also leading me to got arrested in the US in 2013. That's when I started to hack into a few of the US data broker, and I was be able to gain access into like the database with over 200 millions US identity, and I was making the profit like over 3 millions US dollars from 2020. I mean 2000 from 2010 to 2013, and the damage in my case is like more than 1 billion USD, like in new account for at banks and retailers across United States, and over 65 million fraudulent tax returns because the cyber criminal they bought the identity, the stolen identities from my website, underground website, and they use that for malicious purposes. Right. So I got arrested in February 2nd, 2013, I got sentenced to 156 months in federal prison. And I did my time over there for almost 7 years in federal prison in the US. And in prison, I do a lot of educate myself, self improvement, to like education, to anything that I could be able to reach out, like to books and magazine, to any kind of educational program and trainings that they have in the prison. So I transform myself and commitment to do, to use my skill in a good way. And of course, during my sentence day in 2015, I feel the pain of the people who I have hurt and harmed in the US. And one of the letter that the federal judge they shared with me, he told me that one of the victims in my case, that from thousand and thousand victim letters that he got, one of the letter that got into his attention is about this lady. She couldn't afford to buy a house or to feed her kids, and couldn't afford to get a loan. So I feel very bad. I was feeling like I kind of like a serial killer, and that's why I kind of repent and terribly sorry for what I have done in the US. Even until now, the damage is still there because, as you know, personal information when it got sold or got stolen, it will be there forever from hand to hand, right? And here are some pictures that I was taken in prison during my time in incarceration. And so at my prison journal, I wrote like over 7 different journals to try to train my thoughts and behavior, try to be a better person. So returning to Vietnam, I'm very lucky that I got cancer in 2020. After doing my time, I almost 7 years in federal prison, and I tried to rebuild my life again. So when I got back to Vietnam, I got a new job as the National Cybersecurity Center of Vietnamese government, and I got an offer over there. I'm been working there from 2020 until the end of 2024. And of course, there is some public scrutiny, like facing judgment. Like the people, they look at my history, my background, but we can control what other people say or mention about you. But so I just kind of like focusing on to review my life and to be a better person, contribute back with what I have known. And yeah, so become a cyber defender. Decide of working as a cyber threat hunter for National Cybersecurity Center in Vietnam. I also co-founded a non-profit organization, anti-scam, Trong Lừa Đảo. And we've been operating that over 5 years already. And also one of the partner, a very strong partner and long partnership with GASA and Scam Advisor as well. And we also doing scam takedown, like malicious websites, scam websites. We take them down for the people in Vietnam. And we do education, kind of raising cybersecurity awareness for the people, right? So turning my best into a new purpose, beside of doing these kinds of projects, I also have been law enforcement with my cybercrime investigation skill, because I know about and know not only about knowing but also understanding about the criminal thinking patterns and tactics. So it's very easy for me to blend in into these kinds of cybercrime underground marketplace. And since the day I got home until now, I was able to help law enforcement in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia region to arrest more than 200 cyber criminals. Right. So some of the case study that I would like to share is the UN ODC collaboration between me and my organization. I provide technical expertise to translate criminal tactics into actionable intelligence, and also sharing with them all the cybercrime trending in the region as well. Some of the key reports that have credit my contribution, the people we can look up on Google and see, like the first one is the transnational organized crime covenant, the report 2024, and the second one is inflection point 2025. It's all about the in-depth analysis, mapping the cyber criminal networks across the borders. Okay, this is the cover of the two reports that anybody can download that freely. The case study number 2 is I one of the first one exposed in scam campaigns during the COVID-19 pandemic. As we know, it's kind of at first not too many people know about this, but I got deep into this because a lot of people in Vietnam, they've been contacted me and they share with me a lot of threat intel. That's why I put a lot of time to draw a lot of kind of lengthy reports related to scam campaign, related to online scam that we've been knowing nowadays, like butchering, romance scam, impersonations, stuff like that. Case study number 3 is I also investigate kind of enforce dealer malware. That led me to be able to identify the hackers or the threat actor behind this by using my skill like malware reverse, penetration testing, and also like OSINT investigation. So yeah, this is some kind of like we know these click fish techniques that be able to lure the people to click on a fake captcha. So let's say, like when you click on the "I'm not a robot," it will show the verification step that try to manipulate you to inject the malware into your device. So they'll be able to steal your browser history, data, cookies, username, password, everything you store on the browser. So I was able to identify the threat actors behind it, helping law enforcement in Vietnam to arrest these people. Case study number 4 is about crypto investment scam as well. I also investigate this and using threat intelligence platform, social engineering, and also OSINT analysis. And this case is like the damage in this case is over 50 million USD, and I was helping law enforcement to arrest these people. Some of the Chinese, also Malaysian nationality, and many Vietnamese people as well. Right. This case is also public in the news. Anybody can check it out. Case number 5 about DDoS for hire service. That I was able to identify the young hackers. At that time, he was like 16 years old, and I was identify him that he been running the DDoS for hire service to attack companies and ransom the companies. So it was be able to map in their location and identity as well. And when be able to arrest and control the botnet from his own computer at in Vietnam, and very young guys. So education's over incarceration, of course. Until now, I also become a public speaker for many major events, global events, and also Vietnam events as well. And I've been to so many university and school, from middle school to high school, even university, to share my story, to share technical skill to thousand students, and helping them to understand about the law, cybercrime law, and also guiding them into the right path, and motivate them to do the right things by using their skill to contribute to the society, right? And of course, I also bridging public and private sector, the government and the public, the tech companies, and every ethical hackers into my non-profit organization. So we have a lot of knowledge to be able to do many different cybersecurity awareness events, and we using tool, even apply technology like artificial intelligence into our platform, and provide that for free for anybody. And I also have a very strong partnership with Meta government agency as well. So it's have a lot to be able to deal with the scam problem that's been going on in Vietnam. And of course, we need more and more cybersecurity awareness. That's one of the key things, because the tactics and also the techniques that the cyber criminal or the scammer they've been using nowadays is kind of changing like constantly and over time. And because with the help of AI, that's why they be able to come up with a new techniques and new scam scripting scenarios. So any question, just let me know. All right. During the Q&A question. Thank you so much. Here is the slide if you guys want to download that. I do appreciate it for the time. Thanks.
Hugh, thank you so much for sharing your story. What a crazy adventure. Really took a lot of courage for you to come out, and I really appreciate your efforts you've been doing to educate the public and really work on the prevention side. I think you may have covered it in some ways, but there was a question about whether, how we may have prevented having you join the dark side, so to speak. Do you think there's a secret sauce there that maybe we can connect with youth and drive them towards a different path? What works in your view?
Yep. That's my question, right? Yeah.
Yes. How do we keep others from joining and becoming hackers?
Oh yeah. Thank you. That's one of the important questions that I've been collaborating with Interpol to be able to raise awareness, especially to the youth. As you know, cybercrime prevention is much more important than cybercrime, kind of like cybercrime investigation or arrest, right? Prevention is number one thing. So education, guide them into the right path, helping them to understand about the cybercrime law, and helping them to understand the consequences that they may face. And I remember just a few months ago this year, I went to Lyon, France, and I share my personal story about this, and to show them, every action we did online. We also let the trails and also the digital footprints. To be honest, nobody can hide nobody can hide, especially when we do bad things. And eventually, we will be arrested. So not doing anything bad, doing the right thing is much better, and to have a better world, right? And will be a good example for them.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And again, there was a question from Carla. I think that Robert has been so kind, has already posted that in the chat. So thank you there. And I'll skip ahead and stay on the subject of kind of these scam compounds. This is seemingly intractable challenge. Diego has a couple comments and some questions like, what can we do to dismantle these large-scale scam operations? Ben, any ideas off the top?
Yes, thank you so much. As if you follow the news recently about what's going on in Myanmar, I agree with Diego that currently the non-state group has disrupted more scam sites in Myanmar. Like last week, Karen National Union, they raided the Chinese scam compound at Minlen Pan village, and they found like nearly 400 foreign nationals, and hundreds of foreign workers have been handed over to the Thai authority across the border. So I think the crucial part is that currently the Royal Thai Police and the Thai government play an important role in in this issue, in this matter in this issue. So for me, swift and serious international engagement is very important. So currently, the Royal Thai Police established called the International Anti-Scam and Human Trafficking Command Center (IAC), and if the world can support the Thai government, I think this would be very helpful. And specifically, the Thai government will host the conference called the International Conference on Global Partnership Against Online Crime on December 17 and 18. I think that is going to be the venue that we can we all can work together to support the Thai government to help on this issue as well.
Excellent. And I think also, I noticed that there's also been a focus, rightly so, on kind of the downstream rescue of victims or survivors of scam compounds. But I also wonder, is there more that we can do upstream on recruitment? A lot of workers are being trafficked through false job ads, and these target different networks across various countries. I wonder, is there a role for platforms and telco for kind of putting on this upstream recruitment flow? Open that up to anyone.
Yep. I think actually at the IAC, all the private sector, not only social media platform, telco, law enforcement agency, and international law enforcement agency, we usually have like a meeting consistently to discuss, to share signal, to work together to help like a human trafficking victim, what we can support the Thai government to rescue the people, the victim from forced criminality. I think that is the way that we can do the proactive work with the Thai government as the IAC war room. Yep.
Any parting shots as we're over time?
My parting comment was, GSMA is working with a couple of partners, Meta and MasterCard at the moment on sharing data. We're hoping to expand that program over the next couple of months. But ask you to bear with us in that, we're trying to negotiate regulatory hurdles and everything else. But happy to discuss what we're doing with anybody who's interested.
Well, thank you so much. Today's discussion showed us the scale of scams, but also the solution when platforms, telcos, banks, and experts work together. If you want to go deeper, the full State of Scams report for Southeast Asia is on the GASA website. As you know, GASA brings together governments, industry, and civil society to protect consumers and support victims. So join us, share this research, and help push for better systems across the region. I want to thank Haya for keeping us organized and on track, and huge thanks to our speakers here, and thanks to everyone here for your time and ideas. We can all do more. It starts with a conversation. Tell the people you care about how scams work. That means your family and your friends first. And let's together make it harder for scammers to win. Thanks again to BioCatch and Scam Advisor for supporting this work and helping us turn insights into action. Till we meet again, thank you all.
Thanks, Al.
Right.